Well, we're catching up with Tori Amos, and great to have you back down here again.
Thank you.
You've been a bit of a regular visitor down this way.
Well, I love it here, and my daughter loves it. She's with me.
Oh, you brought the family. Great stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
Husband has no choice because, he's one of my work slaves.
Okay, good to see. Good to
Yes.
see. That's the way to keep it. Yeah. But how old is she now?
She is 9, just 9 in September.
Is she musical?
Do you know, this is the thing. The shower has taught us that she's very musical.
Uh-huh.
In her piano lessons, however, it's a different story. But in the shower, she's singing. This voice is coming out of her. You're thinking Aretha Franklin's in there, or Christina
Aguilera, yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
That's interesting because you basically jumped out of the womb and went straight to the piano, didn't you?
I did. And so it's been, as she says, Mommy, it's a little unfair that you say I'm not good at piano, because I might be good, but just because I'm not learning what the teacher's teaching me doesn't mean that I couldn't learn other things. So she's deciding to pick up songs that she wants to learn.
Because you were like 2 years old, weren't you, when you sort of first started playing around on the piano?
Yes, and that's why, Tash has been good to say, look, just because I'm 9 doesn't mean I'm a failure and it's over for me yet. And I'll say, no, you're right, but the clock's ticking. She'll laugh at me.
Yeah, well, I guess for you, starting at 2 years, you could now officially claim 40 years in the business.
That's 44.
44 years in the business.
44 years.
Yeah.
I was at the conservatory when I was 5 training. And I think when you're 5 years old and you're training, the positive side of that is it does get into your vocabulary. Mm-hmm. And that was a huge part, I think, of making the seasonal record, that my classical training kicked in.
Because you've had an amazing prolific period, haven't you, in the last 12 months and then sort of heading into the new year. We had the Abnormally Attracted to Sin album, then we had Midwinter Graces, and in 2010 there's the Light Princess on the way as well.
When you say that to me, I'm very blessed that the muses don't seem to be angry with me yet, and I leave wine for them everywhere I go. I never finish totally. Well, maybe in a restaurant I can hear maitre d's all over the world saying, yeah, that hussy finishes her wine. But I do leave little presents for the muse, thinking, keep remembering me in your musical thoughts. And she does.
Oh, that's good to hear too. The Abnormally album, you seem revitalised with that. You just signed to a new label. Was that all part of the process of getting a new label, a whole new team around you, I guess, working for the record that gave you the creative spurt on with that album?
Well, that's a good question. I think because Doug Morris, who is chairman of Universal worldwide, he's 70 now, and he is my mentor. He broke little earthquakes. He was chairman of Atlantic Records in the late 80s, early 90s. So I've been with Doug, well, since I can remember. For my recording life, I've been with him. And being with somebody that was there as a believer does something to you once you've been in the business for as long as I have. And I think it's because before I was a proven touring act and recording artist, he was there. And therefore, once I left the evil empire, mentioning no names, it was really great when he opened his door to me. I was not planning on going to a major again, and I was actually setting up my own label and going to distribute through Universal. And he said, no, Tori, you come be with me, and you can have as much independence as you want, but let's work together, because we always work together so well. And he brought in Monty Littman, who's my day-to-day guy, and we bounce off ideas with each other, and we have a really good relationship.
Because then, we've gone from one album into Midwinter Graces, and, this is your first Christmas record.
Can you believe it?
Yeah.
But my dad has been harping on about me doing this since I was 2.
Wow. Finally got his wish.
He did, but it's a little different than he thought it would be. We talked about it. I said, Dad, I can't do these carols as they've been written, because some of the beliefs are really, I think, they subjugate women. And there's so many mothers that are a part of the sexual act. In order to be a mother, unless you're in the Christian story, you do certain things to become a mom. And I don't want any of that shaming in the work I do. And he said, well, you need to do what Charles Wesley did. And I said, and what's that? And he said, well, he took parts of music that he liked and he put Christology to it. So you'll take what you like and put your own ideology to it. And I said, well, thanks, Dad, for the approval before I start, because that's what I have to do.
Because it's a total reconstruction of Christmas songs. It's like reinventing what the Christmas album is, isn't it?
Well, without, I hope, disregarding the beauty of the originals. I tried to keep what I think, well, that I loved from the originals. But what people might not realize, and this is really important, is that a lot of the carols you hear came from, a lot of them were drinking songs or sea shanties before Christian lyrics were put to them. And as I started researching about where each carol came from, a lot of times they'll say to you in the Oxford Book of Carols, the first Noel, they really believe the melody was a famous quote-unquote pop song of the time, a pub song, a sea shanty. And the Christians decided, well, let's put some, Christian lyrics to this. And that's how that song came about.
Wow. What about the Light Princess that we talked about? What's that all about?
That is one of the most challenging things I have ever, probably it is the most challenging thing that I've ever taken on board. I was told that composing a musical was a glorious nightmare. And they're not kidding. For it to be good, for the script and the songs to be integrated, it's incredibly challenging, because when they rewrite a scene, which happens all the time, then you have to rewrite the music in most cases because the song doesn't work for the scene anymore. So we're in our second draft, and I guess I've spent more time composing for this work than any other work in my life.
So will we see this in 2010?
We are in a workshop in the spring, a 3-week workshop, working it through. So the chances of it being up and running in 2010, knowing the timeline, I'd say to you, even if it gets the green light, it would be 2011.
In all this time, you've even managed to tuck in a duet with David Byrne.
How exciting.
Yeah.
That was so
You're a Talking
fun.
Heads fan?
Such a big fan.
Yeah.
And the thing is, working with him was just a blast, because what I love about him, he is yet another legend. And I've worked with some amazing ones, Robert Plant, Peter Gabriel, and they're great as well. Robert, has gone on to work with other people and has such success with working with female artists. And David has this, he seems so unaffected by the fact that he's a legend. He goes about his life, he's very funny. And if he walked in a room, he's a striking man. But he doesn't expect to be treated like a rock star. He came on the train by himself. I mean, really unaffected, kind of.
Yeah. I hear stories of him getting around New York City on his push bike.
Yeah, down to earth guy.
Yeah. Interesting stuff with him. I guess you've never been afraid to go outside of your comfort zone, have you? When you did the Professional Widow remix all those years ago, did you expect that to become as big as it became?
No. And I mean, it was fun doing that. I think when people ask me about why don't you do it again, because it's really hard to repeat being one of the biggest songs that isn't a dance song that got turned into a dance song. When you have something like Professional Widow in your arsenal, to then try and do that again, you're setting yourself up for a fall. And I think that that's just something that has become legendary. And because it's not my genre, I think you walk away. It's that idea about being a gambler and you walk away from the Vegas tables knowing, okay, we won. let's walk away before we lose the house.
Well, speaking of it not being in your genre, you've also been able to take things that have been outside your genre and turn them into your genre, like that amazing version you did of Nirvana Smells Like Teen Spirit.
That, I think when I heard that song, it had such an effect on everybody. And yet, it dawned on me that it was such a beautiful piece of music and that the song was so strong that it could hold a different interpretation. And I think certain songs, when they're not just dependent on an arrangement, but the song itself, naked, is so strong, then those are the songs that call to me. 97 Bonnie and Clyde was another song, the Eminem track, that I felt, well, you know, this could hold a different interpretation that could be just as valid.
Because that album, Strange Little Girls, was an amazing collection of songs, wasn't it? And, you know, I mean, to have the guts to cover Joe Jackson's Real Men from, you know, your perspective.
That whole record was, that was a think tank. My husband, Mark, and Neil Gaiman, we sat, my daughter was just a few weeks old, and we sat in the beach house in Florida and talked about Strange Little Girls as an idea. Similar to Doug Morris, Monty and I talking about Midwinter Graces as an idea, and how either one of these concepts you can get so terribly wrong. And if you get it wrong, because we know of records that are cover records, and we know of Christmas records that just, you know, sink like a lead balloon, and you think, okay, if I'm going to approach these things, as you say, out of the comfort zone, then you really have to do your homework and study and think, okay, I'm just not going to do things that I like. It has to work within a narrative and a structure, and it has to make some kind of sense.
You mentioned Neil Gaiman there, and you've had a remarkable relationship with him that sort of came from a very professional beginning, didn't it? I mean, he was an author, and you name-checked him in a song, and suddenly he's using influence that you came up for characters, you know, in his works. You know, how has that relationship evolved over the years?
I'd say Neil is one of my dearest friends, and I think to have somebody in your life that's been there for so many years, and of course he knows a lot of my private life, and I know his, and I think you and I both know that as you stay in the business, if you don't want to end up in gossip magazines, you have to really close ranks on your personal life. And yet you need people that you can trust to be, you know, a sounding board and to talk things through. So to have people in your life that you can trust, that you know will keep your confidence, that's rare. And we have that with each other. So it's a very dear friendship.
You've had another interesting project in recent years with Comic Book Tattoo.
What an experience. Who knew that would be received so well? And Rance Hosley, the editor, deserves all the accolades that have been gifted by the Eisner Award and the different awards that have meant so much to all of us, because that was a labor of love, I have to tell you. So much energy got put into that by all the writers and by my team, and Rance, of course. Rance is the guy that took one of my songs to Neil Gaiman in 1991 or 1990. And that's when I got a phone call from Neil Gaiman soon after that saying, I hope you're considering being in the music business, because I think you've got something there.
Well, he was right.
Yay, Neil.
You've come a long way since Why Can't Tori Read?
Yes. Phew.
Now there's a band that could get back together.
My goodness.
Yeah.
Matt Sorum.
Before GNR.
Yes.
So you had Matt Sorum before Guns N' Roses.
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
And do you know the amazing thing, though, is he still looks as good as he did in the 80s. I think he must have a deal some deal going. Like, he's Dorian Gray. He really is, because that guy has done too much in his lifetime to look like he does.
Yeah. Yeah, he's, are there recordings of that still around? I can't recall that ever being released on CD, for instance.
No, it wasn't, but there are recordings that exist because there were demo tapes made, and we were all hopeful. But those demos weren't the ones, unfortunately, that the record company wanted to put out. There was a guy, Jason Flom, head of A&R, that believed in the music from the demos of Why Can't Tori Read. But he was one of the few believers. I bet you he has a tape of it somewhere.
It should be dug out, I think.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
For historical purposes, not hysterical purposes.
Yeah, well. But isn't it funny how historical things can become hysterical things?
Yeah.
But so much time has passed that you think that maybe it's okay if that gets out. But before that, I did something with Randy Jackson, who's on Idol, American Idol. And he played the bass for a lot of projects that Narda Michael Walden was doing out of San Francisco. And when I was 19 years old, Narda flew me out, and Randy and I wrote a song together called Skirts on Fire. And that's something that really should never get out.
Oh, maybe they could perform it on Idol.
No.
I think it's time for a Tori Amos Rarities album.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to hear.
And then there's that classic Rub Down. Oh, yeah.
Oh, what's that one all about?
Oh, dear. I think it says it. The title says it all.
The title does says it all, and I'm just trying to think what a video clip may have looked like at that point had it been made.
Thank God it didn't.
That could have been your Olivia Newton-John physical phase.
It could have been.
Yeah.
Thank God it never happened.
Well, it's good to catch up with you again and hear the Tori Amos story from Tori Amos. Thanks for joining us here at Undercover.
Thank you.